Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the Top 10 Movie Podcast. This is Mulley, and here, as always, is Mike. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, y'all? Just another day in paradise. Yeah, actually, I hate that phrase because everybody always says that, especially in the corporate workplace.
Oh, really? They try to dress it up as paradise?
Yeah, like, hey, how's it going, Mike? Just another day in paradise. Okay, well, nobody wants to be here. No one's more miserable than me,
No.
so I get it.
You have to pay me to come in.
Yeah, for real, yes.
So, speaking of that, that kind of falls right into what we're talking about here on our latest Top 10 list here. And our Top 10 list for this episode is the top 10 movies we watch when life gets us down.
I wrote top 10 pick-me-up movies, but whatever.
It's the same.
I just changed that an hour ago, 2 hours ago.
Doing the list, we both talked about, we had some struggles getting our list together. To me, it's almost like a favorite movies list almost. You know what I mean? Like we've done an episode of our favorite movies before. I don't know if and when that'll ever come out, honestly, but who knows? We might have to re-record it. See, that's a great thing. We may record it. But some of my favorite movies ever are on this list, at least a couple of them, just because I do use them as a pick-me-up. Did you find a similar thing where some of your more maybe favorite top 10 movies or whatever might be on the list as well? Or did you try to avoid that actively?
Maybe one or two might be crossover, but for the most part, this list is completely separate and independent of that other list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with yours. What do you have as your not necessarily top, but what's your first movie that you like to watch when you need a little pick me up?
This is probably would be number one on this list for me. Actually ranked as the best.
Oh wow!
Or the highest top 10.
First time I think you've ever done that.
Yeah, it just happened because it was the first one that came to mind, and then I happened to realize, oh, this is probably one I would watch more versus the other 9 in terms of top 10 pick-me-ups, and this is Hangover, the first one.
Oh wow!
Hangover.
Okay.
Yeah. This movie comes out in 2009. It actually prompted my first ever trip to Vegas in 2010, and then also we did a sequel trip to Vegas in 2011. And had a blast both times. But this movie is just filled with off the wall laughs and shenanigans, and at its core it's about this brotherhood and this friendship, this wolf pack that the word that they use in the movie.
Yeah.
And this is about this group of guys who come together to find their friend Doug, who's supposed to be getting married, so they go to Vegas. Everybody knows the story, but it's about friendship, and it's about having good laughs and memories that everyone has survived. We've all been in these moments where you've had your group of friends and you didn't maybe know how things were going to turn out, but it might look a little dark, a little bleak. But at the end of the day, you survive it, and you can look back on it, and maybe there's video evidence that shows how wild that moment was, and you can look back at that fondly and say, well, we survived it, and we can laugh about it now. And this movie is just one of those. It's fun from the word go, and you're laughing through the credits literally because of all the pictures they show while the credits are rolling. So for me, it's number one.
Yeah, dude, that movie. And so, wait, now you went to Vegas. It inspired you to go to Vegas because of this. Did you have any hangover moments while you were in Vegas?
So I didn't. Of course, we joked about having those moments and doing the blood pact on the roof with the knife and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. None of that stuff happened to us, thankfully. Yeah. But we did have a good time, and we did actually the first time we went to Vegas. No, second time, 2011. We didn't go to bed until the sun was coming up. We were partied hard. We went to clubs. We were up dancing all night, going home, and the sun was coming up. Somehow I hopped a rail, ended up in the middle of the strip with traffic running me down almost.
Oh, good. This was a hangover moment.
It was. It was a great time.
Nice.
I fell in love with one of the servers in one of the restaurants.
Of course.
But yeah, that's neither here. Her name was Judith. Shout out to Judith.
What's up, Judith?
If she's still working there, if she remembers that moment. But yeah, no, I had a blast in Vegas both times. Haven't been since. I've been wanting to go back, but now I kind of feel like I'm maybe aged out from those types of experiences. Mm-hmm. So if I was to go again, it would be a completely different thing. But I am looking forward to see what the next iteration of a Vegas trip for me would look like.
Okay, all right. So when I approached my list of the top 10 movies we watch when life gets us down, the way that I approached it was a little bit more about the mindset that I'm in when I need, like, depending on the mindset that I'm in, what movie kind of helps address that. So each one of these, I kind of prefaced with a scenario and what kind of movie would be my solution. So if my scenario is the problem, what movie would be the solution was kind of the idea.
So like if you get shot, then what movie are you gonna watch? And you're bleeding to death, so
Yeah, I probably watch YouTube videos on how to
Got
treat a gunshot.
got it.
But no, this particular one, you'll get it as I get into it. So when the world of politics lets me down, when I think we all kind of can get under that minutia of all the political attacks on both
Also,
sides.
like right now in real life, got it.
Right. When all that stuff, when you don't believe in the government or its officials, or you're soured on the whole thing, then I watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 39. Yeah, a movie. I think this is the oldest movie we've ever talked about on the podcast. But Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is an absolute godsend for me to remember that there is always the potential for good people to be in the whole public office and really want to impact positive change. And I think a lot of the politicians that do get, at least initially get involved, they're doing it for good reasons. They want to make change. They want to help people. They think things can be done better, more efficiently, and make more people happy. And I think a lot of them, maybe all of them, they start off that way now. The corruption, the amount of money and power struggle, and all the things that are very much in this movie, definitely like is what we see on a daily basis in the news. I used to work in the news, obviously, so maybe not so obvious to some of the people listening, but news is so negatively influenced. Anything that's negative in the news, that's what gets the most views. That's why the negative headlines and negative stories on the internet, they get all the views, or videos about, like recently, there's been this whole attack on Mr. Beast. Those videos are getting massive views because it's negatively putting one of the more popular, if not the most popular YouTuber in a negative light and attacking him. And people love to see guys that are like that are up high, get taken down. So much so that millions and millions upon millions of people will watch it. So that goes, I think, double in the world of politics. So someone like Jimmy Stewart in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, a man who has the purest of intentions, doesn't really necessarily want to get into politics, but was actually leading a boys group, like helping young boys was his whole thing. And he got thrust into this political scene, but he still wanted to do some good. And then you can see the claws of Washington and a really a powerful man, a billionaire, like a very rich man who's trying to influence his power, have influence in Washington, and it almost ruins the Jimmy Stewart character, but he prevails at the end through some heroic means, by being his pure self, by being the honest, true self that wants to do good in the world. So that always gives me heart when I feel like the political thing just hangs over my head too much, and I don't feel like we can win. Seeing a movie like that helps me to remember that good can triumph, and that there are good people in the world. And so I need that movie sometimes, especially in the political world that we are today. So it's and I think a lot of these movies, you'll find that this when I'm struggling with something, like I said, life gets you down in a certain situation where a certain movie will inform a part of my life that I want to improve. You know what I mean? So as we get further down the list, we'll see some of that. But when the politics get you down, man, check out Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because it's so good, and it's pure, and it's one of the greatest actors ever. And all this, he plays a real hokey character. He's one of the legends of acting. So Jimmy Stewart, yeah.
All right, for me, one of the things that really just puts a smile on my face in movies is when you have to get the crew together. You have to go recruit your members of the team because everybody has a specific role that they have to play. If we can't get this person to fulfill this role, we can't pull this mission off.
Yes.
And this next movie for me has that, and it's the first half of the movie. You get introduced to these characters. They all have a role to play. They all fit in. Some are connected in other ways, and some are more disjointed. But they all come together for a common good. And this movie's Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. When this movie first came out in 2000, I think I saw it in theaters probably 3 or 4 times. Now, of course, the price of movie tickets back then isn't what it is now. So if this was today, I probably wouldn't do that. I would wait for to come on streaming. But it left an impact on me. This was actually the beginning of my filmmaking appreciation journey. And I think this is around the time when I was starting to go to the theaters like often, alone during the day, at night, whenever. Back when they had midnight shows, and that was a big thing when the big summer blockbuster came out.
Oh my gosh! I thought they don't do that. Still do that anymore? I just figured I was out of the loop on that.
No, now it's just Thursday at 7.
That's true. That is right.
The Thursday at 7 o'clock. Yeah, no more late night shows.
They made it more accessible to people.
They did.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gone in 60 Seconds. It's Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie, Chi McBride, Giovanni Ribisi. The list goes on and on and on. I had this movie on DVD. Whenever it's on TV, when I had cable, whenever it was on TV, it didn't matter what part of the film it was on, I would watch to the end. Because it's just a fun, no pun intended, a fun ride all the way through from beginning to the end. It's a great soundtrack, and really it's high octane, high intensity. And it's just a great, again, kind of like The Hangover, a much bigger ensemble cast. About 9 or 10 people involved in this movie, because the deal is they're having to steal 50 cars in one night. So you can't just get 4 guys to pull this off. You need a bunch of different people playing a bunch of different roles. And the cast is great. The camaraderie, the rapport that the cast has with each other, the story about why they're doing this. It's not that they're all common thieves, but they're doing it for a very noble reason. And the ending, it's one of your kind of ends. It's a happy ending. So, I'm not highlighting that often.
Well, it wasn't happy for Eleanor.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a car. We're talking about real people. And it's a feel-good movie. And it's got some really cool looking cars, muscle cars if you're into that, and great soundtrack. Like I said, very slick, very of its time, 2000s.
Yes, it's very stylized in how it's filmed.
Yeah, for sure.
And the color grading of it, it's very specific.
And of course, it's a Jerry Bruckheimer production, so it's going to come with that very specific look. Just watched The Ministry of Extraordinary Gentlemen on Amazon Prime, which is a great movie. That's another Guy Ritchie classic, in my opinion. And I didn't know it was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer as well. But then when you see the movie, it makes sense.
Okay. All right. All right. So, continuing on my list now, the top 10 movies we watch when life gets us down. When I need a little boost in remembering, that humanity is good. When I need to believe in humanity again, I just throw on The Terminal from 2004. The Terminal stars, man, it's surprising. Listen to this cast list. Terminal stars Tom Hanks, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Stanley Tucci, Zoe Saldana, and Diego Luna. I forget these are all people that are pretty well known today, that weren't as well known back then. Some of the guys, especially like Zoe Saldana and Diego Luna, they weren't known as well.
Yeah, this is what, 04, right?
This is 04. Okay, yeah, this is 20 years ago.
Right. Wow.
But I looked at the cast list for The Terminal. I was like, I forgot all of these. No wonder I love this movie. And it's such a well-acted movie. Look at all the names that are associated with this that I didn't even know, and they weren't stars at the time. Some of them became stars. But The Terminal is about a man visiting our country. Tom Hanks plays from a different country. And he is stuck in limbo at a very... almost like a mall, but it's an airport terminal, but it's a massive one. It's one of the bigger ones.
So we're not talking about spiritual limbo, because that's different.
No, he isn't stuck in like whether he can enter the country or not type limbo, right? So we don't find out till later in the movie exactly why he's there, but he's there to honor his father basically, and he just needs to do one really quick thing, and he's going to leave the country and go back home. The problem is that he's in a country that's redefining if it's a country or not. There was a coup that took place in his country, and they were still trying to define the government and who's in charge, and so it left him, and he left him a man with no country, and a man with no country without the correct paperwork couldn't enter the United States. So he had flown to the United States, but couldn't leave the terminal until all that mess got cleared up. So he spent what appears to be several weeks in the terminal. Now, the terminal has stores and restaurants and everything that you would need outside
Showers?
of a bed. It never showed him shower. Well, no, you know what? I don't know if it showed him ever showering. So, but if it's a big enough, if this is supposed to be like LaGuardia Airport,
Yeah.
like it's supposed to be like a model of that, you would imagine there probably was. He never looked disheveled or dirty, so I guess there was. I don't particularly remember that part, but basically what he does is that he's stuck. He doesn't speak English, or at least doesn't speak very well, and he has to figure out how to survive in an airport for weeks. And he really does it through the love of him being a pure person. Thank you. Him being just a kind of a pure of heart person and befriending all the people who work at the terminal to the point where he becomes, for Stanley Tucci, he's a bane of his existence because he's this guy he just can't get rid of, that he desperately wants to get rid of. But he almost seems okay torturing this really pure good guy, whereas everybody else that's involved, the Zoe Saldana's, the Lunas, they befriend, they get to know him, and he becomes part of their friendship group there. He's like an everyday part of their lives by the end of it, And there's a terrific scene at the end of it where he's going to be allowed to go and finally walk into America for the first time to do what he needs to do. And, all these people that he's befriended are giving him free gifts and congratulating him and ushering him out. And there's a nice little climax at the end where you don't know if he's going to be able to do it or not with the Stanley Tucci character, but it works out, obviously. And it's just a great film of, like, if you ever are down on humanity, like, this will kind of restore it for you. Not only Tom Hanks's portrayal of this guy that's kind of pure of heart, but also the people that he gets into their lives. And there's even a little romance with a stewardess and Catherine Zeta-Jones, a kind of a little flirtation that takes place. So it's a little bit of everything, and all wrapped around this one massive location of an airport terminal that becomes his home for weeks. So, yeah, believe in humanity again. Watch The Terminal.
Okay, and you mentioned that it's a feel-good story.
It is.
I feel like a lot of good feel-good stories happen typically on a Friday. I mean, if you think about what Friday represents to just the everyday common working man in the corporate world, like Friday means it's the end of the week. You got the weekend. You can finally pop off to parties or go on vacation or.
Everybody looks towards for Friday.
Everybody. It's the best day of the week, I think.
Everybody can't wait for the weekend.
For sure. I mean, I think that's going to put me in a good mood versus the other 6 days of the week. It's Friday, knowing what's to come, 2 days off, no work, right? Now, what happens if you wake up on a Friday and you have nowhere to go after the weekend? Then you get number 3 on my list, which is the movie Friday.
Okay, I thought that's where we were going. But then when you said, we don't have nothing to do by the end of the week, I thought, is this a disaster movie where the world's going to end by Monday or something?
No, this is one of those movies, like, it literally speaks, this movie is a classic across genres and generations and races. This is 1995. Everybody knows what Friday's about. This is Chris Tucker and this is Ice Cube. And this is about a guy and his best friend who were just hanging out on the porch in the hood one day in sunny California on a Friday. Ice Cube's character gets fired on his day off, and it's a Friday. So when I say after the weekend, there's nowhere to go after that, it's because he got fired.
Got fired.
Yeah, but for all intents and purposes for this list, this is one of those movies that the very first time I saw it, like, I just knew this was going to stay with me for years to come in terms of being funny and putting me in a better mood. The soundtrack has a lot of, like, it's a good mix of hip-hop that was current at the time and then a lot of throwback to the old school Motown days in the 60s and 70s. And it's just a great story, again, about friendship, about two guys being there for each other, however reluctant one person may want to be, confronting the neighborhood bully, getting the girl that everybody is pining over. It's just a feel good movie in all those ways. You've got families involved, and you've got life lessons about how to be a man, how you don't need a gun. You just, that scene where it's like, if you use these, talking about his fists, that's how you solve your problems. And it's just, you wouldn't look at this on paper and say this is a feel good movie, but when you watch it, you realize there is a lot of heart to it. There's a lot of humor to it. There's a lot of
lessons,
a lot of life lessons to it that you can apply. And in a lot of ways, a coming of age tale too. And I think when I first saw this, I was 15. So I mean, for sure, for me, it taught me some things about life, about how to be a man. Not to say that my pops didn't teach me those things, but it kind of validated some of the things my pops had always told me in terms of being a man, and how to think and have your mindset be a certain way. But yeah, this movie's just funny. The whole rapport between Chris Tucker and Ice Cube is hilarious.
Chris Tucker and everyone's.
I could have watched another 4 or 5 movies of just those two. That was the original plan, but then Chris Tucker went a different route.
That's right.
Unfortunately, but no, this movie is going to stay in my list of movies that always will give me a good pick me up or uplift my mood every time I watch it.
Awesome. I like it. All right. You've talked about that movie before and how it gives you a sense of nostalgia of the way things used to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I definitely have some movies on my list that are nostalgic. I call it retreating. When I want to retreat back into my childhood, I go to this set of movies. But that'll be later. First, when I need my faith to be reassured, my belief in God, my spirituality, whatever religion or whatever you believe in, or even if you don't. But if you just need for me, my faith to be reassured, I watch a movie called Joshua, which is, we've talked about it before together. But it's a 2002 movie that not many people know about, but it stars Tony Goldwyn and F. Murray Abraham. So this is a movie where a mysterious man moves into this small town, and then he starts doing positive things in this small town, just helping people, minor little things. And then there's amongst small town people, this is common. There's rumors about people, and there's a buzz about a new person in town. And this is a man who has rented out a kind of a small barn, and he's doing woodworking stuff in that barn, and his tools seem very primitive to do woodworking with, but he's very skilled at it, and he does some things that are surprising people to the point where they start calling them miracles, but he doesn't. And then he starts to do some things that people are starting to suspect that he might be a historical biblical figure. I think he might be Jesus, honestly. He never says that. He's just a guy that just walked into town, saw that some things needed to be done, started doing those things, and they start to become a little bit of a legend, and very similar, I guess, to the Terminal in the sense that it seems like just a kind-hearted, good person trying to do good things in the community, and it just has a great spiritual message to it, and it's not really even religious in the part that it's just the idea of what one good person's good acts can do for a community, and how it can have a positive effect on everyone around them, and how that has a ripple effect on people around them, and they are more positive, and they're doing good things in the community, and it just makes everything and everyone better,
right,
through one man's efforts, and not even large efforts, just efforts, just trying. So when I need my faith, if I feel like my faith is lagging, or if I need to pick me up in the spiritual sense of it, I watch this movie, Joshua from 2002, and it gives me that a little bit more reassurance. You know what I mean? There's good in the world. That doing good is not only a good thing, but a needed thing in our world, and that there are people that are willing to go and do that. And then it may be, instead of hoping other people do good, like generating that good within yourself to help people around you, and how that can have a positive effect on everyone. So, yeah, Joshua, 2002.
Great choice.
Thanks.
I can't remember what episode it was that we talked about it. It might have been one of the
My favorite movies.
okay.
Or no, it was. I'm sorry. It
Top
is one
10
of my
movies
favorites.
people don't know about, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, criminally underrated. No.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll hear it soon. I'm sure that's coming out at some point down the pipeline.
dude, we have so many now.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. Good for us and good for anybody who is listening. So, next one for me. There's no segue from that to this.
Okay. You've been doing some good segues.
I'm trying,
I'll
man.
give you a lot of credit for that because sometimes I think you're reacting to mine. You're actually going into yours, which is good.
So there's nothing spiritual about this movie, but it's also not demonic. Probably the first list, and it doesn't have anything horror related. Oh no, I lied. The last one on here kind of does. It's
All right.
a little bit of a cheat.
Look at the tease.
Yeah. But no, this one is it's I guess you could say it's spiritual in the way that it brings two races together. And I think there is something spiritual about harmony between multi races.
Sure.
For sure. And this is a classic. This is even more so of a classic than Friday in terms of when it was released. It's a little bit older than Friday. It did come out in the early 90s. You know, Friday was 95. This is 91. And it stars two up-and-coming actors. One, this is his first movie role, came from television. Nobody thought he could do this. And the other was an actor who had done a few smaller roles in films, but was really starting to be a breakout. And I think this movie, putting them together, put both of them on the map after this. And this is Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and White Man Can't Jump.
Yes.
If you are a Hoops fan, like I know both of us are, and we grew up in the 90s watching, the Bulls and all the NBA games, the Lakers, NBA on TNT and TBS back then,
NBA Jam,
all that, the classic theme that played on NBC on Sunday afternoons. You know it's going to be a banger of a game. Which I've been hearing. You guys are going to hear this much more after this a moment, but I've been hearing that theme on the Olympics when they have the men's basketball play. So it's cool to hear that sound again, that nostalgic sound. The only person missing was Bob Costas, which I don't know what's up with him. I don't know if he's in trouble or anything, but
I just saw an interview with him this past week.
Well, the good thing about White Man Can't Jump is you only need to know two names, and that's Sidney Dean and Billy Hoyle. That's it. we don't have to know about any other names aside from those two. They're both street hustlers in the basketball scene in LA, in the LA scene in the 90s, which this movie is very much of its time. Like street hoops was the thing. You remember it wasn't Hoop It Up, was it?
Hoop It Up.
That was like the big tournament that I always have in Dallas every summer.
Every summer.
And you get your squad together, you go out there, you try to go for it. And it's almost kind of like the movie with Dwayne Martin and Tupac, Above the Rim. Yeah, another street ball, classic. And I put this in the same arena as that, but this movie is a feel-good movie because, again, I talked about how spiritual it is to bring two races together and see them in perfect harmony. Now, the movie doesn't start off that way, but we get.
I don't think it doesn't end that way either.
No, to me it does, because by the end of it, these two are going to be kind of what they've always been. The dynamic between the two from the beginning when they first meet. They meet talking trash to each other. They're trying to out-hustle each other.
Yeah.
But then they have to reluctantly team up to join this tournament to win this money. And then there's some inner turmoil personally for both characters that splits them apart for a little bit, but ultimately they have a unified goal to kind of fix things in both of their lives. And by the end of it, they're still just kind of running their mouths, talking trash to each other. Billy Holt thinks he's black, or he thinks he understands black because he loves Jimi Hendrix. And Sidney Dean is like, you can't hear Jimmy because you're white. And so there's this whole back and forth about being able to hear Jimmy and listening to Jimmy are two different things. And I know black because I can speak black slang. And it's just, they use basketball as a way to bring white and black together. And then the whole name, White Man Can't Jump, there's the whole underlying theme that plays there. Because now that we know in 2024, white men can jump. White men, white men can play for sure.
Well, they could even back then. I mean, look, one of the dunks that I see over and over again is
don't say Brett Berry. Don't say
Tom Chambers as well.
Oh, okay.
Like there are guys that could dunk. For Bill Walton was dunking this. I mean, there's definitely George Mikan probably could dunk back in the 30s and 40s. But yeah, but not probably not famous. Not unless you were like 6'9".
True.
You know what I mean? But in this particular one, I wanted to ask you: is this Wesley Snipes' best role ever?
Oh no, Blade. Come on.
No, but Blade is so there's nothing there. Like there's no emotional. I think it. I don't. I just never. I've never seen Wesley Snipes so animated and lovable. Like I really love the guy. Like as much as he wants to hate the Woody Harrelson character, he doesn't. He kind of respects.
There's
him.
a level of respect there for sure,
and there's a brotherhood between them.
Absolutely,
that shouldn't be there. You know, it's just based on personality, not even skin color. Like on personality, these two shouldn't fit. One trying to scam the other, and then there's big, but they're connected in a way they don't want to admit.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
Right. Yeah. So I guess you've never seen New Jack City.
Right? I probably have, but it's been a while.
Okay. Yeah. So he's charismatic in that, but he's evil in that.
That's you.
So there's no humor in any of that. But it's similar to White Man Can't Jump, this is before White Man Can't Jump. White Man Can't Jump probably does show more of a diversified acting ability by him in that.
I don't think it's maybe it's not him as an actor, like he's his most challenging.
It seems like the most Wesley Snipes is
charisma. Maybe the most charisma in anything I've seen him in.
And just looking at Wesley Snipes like in interviews and just in behind the scenes footage of movies.
He's not this.
No, to me he kind of reminds me of this.
Oh, he's more this.
Yeah, like that's his real personality. Okay. He seems comfortable on the court. He has like an athletic build.
I believe
you can believe he really
both sides. I believe basketball
hoop for real. Yeah, I still say Blade just because it's the most multi-generational crossover popular movie. But I'm always gonna pick White Man Can't Jump because of where I was in life when I saw it. So it's kind of nostalgic, and it's also a pick-me-up movie as well.
It is good. Yeah, you're right. I do. And Rosie Perez. Oh my gosh,
she was amazing in that.
Yeah, she was. Okay, that's good, and that really fits right into my next one, which is when I feel when I need a feel-good sports movie to escape the world. What's the one sports movie that I'd like to dive into? The sports movie for me has got to have a couple of things. Like there really are two different kinds of sports movies. There's the sports comedies, the Happy Gilmores kind of the world, more comedic. And then there's the more retelling of actual events kind of movies where it's like they're going through difficulties to get to the championship, you know what I mean? And all the things they had to do in order to win or just barely win or just barely not win. It's like there's two different. It's almost a documentary type of movie about sports, or it's like really funny, comedic. This movie combines both. It's funny, it's fun, but the sports angle of it, as a sports fan, still able to capture you with the realism of it. Because it was actually used actual teams in Major League Baseball at the time, Cleveland Indians, and the movie is Major League. Major League from 1989, starring Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen.
This movie's made multiple lists on this podcast.
Wesley Snipes and Bob Uecker. Bob Uecker, the sports announcer, he has a major contribution into this film because he makes not only... He's a very funny man. They used to call him Mr. Baseball, mainly because of the beer commercials he used to do. He used to play professional baseball and turn to radio personality into announcer and actor. But Uecker gave the movie legitimacy in because he's a longtime Major League Baseball announcer, but he's also hilarious. And some of his one-liners. Just a bit outside, like that. Those kind of things are just unforgettable. And he makes this movie, to me, feel more than just a collection of random actors. But those actors are really good, and the cast that they got really blends well together. The fact they have the Major League Baseball license and the backing is really big. And what turns out, what is at first turns out is a movie that is just a team that's underwhelming. That puts a bunch of misfits together, players, and the way that they find a way, the coaching and all the things they go through to gather together as a team, and as a team that's going to go to the World Series by the end of it, and then they make that transition really legitly, and by the end of it, you're not laughing anymore about this movie, although it's very funny. You are invested in them winning. You want them to win. And the ending of this movie is so climactic with the music and the intensity of the crowd and the real feel of baseball. And I'm not a huge baseball fan, but it gives me goosebumps as just a sports lover to watch this film over and over again. You get into that last inning and those pitches, and then the how they kind of pull it off at the end. It's such celebratory magic. Like it's just you can feel the entire theater with you if you were watching it live. Like stand on their feet and put their hands up because they get to that moment. So to give you the funniness and the comedy of it at the beginning and make you laugh and have a good time, but then make you want to cheer by the end, it's the complete package when it comes to sports movies.
Yeah.
So Major League, if you need a good sports movie fix, God, it didn't get any better to me than Major League.
Okay. You know, it's funny because you say you're not a big baseball fan. I was in the 90s. I was a huge Texas Rangers fan back in the day. Had some really good players back then. But now I'm more of an Astros fan. I don't ever remember watching or having baseball games televised on a Saturday. The one thing that does exist on Saturday, or used to, was Saturday school. If you got in trouble for whatever reason, or you skipped...
I don't think I ever went to school on Saturday.
Yeah, if you got in trouble, or you skipped, or you missed some assignments, you had to go to Saturday school. Now, obviously, this is a thing that doesn't exist anymore, to my knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they still have detention and stuff.
Yeah, they have detention, but I think it's more like an after-school
Yeah,
thing versus... Actually, no, I take it back. My niece, she told me that they do stuff Saturday school. She had to go once.
Dang.
Yeah. But, you know, one thing about Saturday school is it's one of the only places you're going to be able to get an eclectic mix of kids together, where you can get a jock, a loner,
popular
girl. You already know where I'm going with this.
Oh, emo girl, maybe.
Yep, a nerd.
A geek.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the Breakfast Club.
Oh, yeah. Good.
You wouldn't think that this would be on a list for pick-me-ups, but what really draws me into this movie and is the highlight for me is the pivotal scene where they're all in a circle, basically just having a real moment with each other.
Yeah.
And this is when we finally figure out why Brian, the nerd of the movie, is in Saturday school. And this is also when the jock, Emilio Estevez's character, the wrestler, you find out why he's there. And they start to have this real conversation for once where they all let their guards down and all their insecurities, and they don't care. It's not about it's not about the group that I fit in Monday through Friday. It's about me as a person in this moment with these other people and finding common ground. And it's the best part of the movie. And to me, it's just uplifting, and it makes me feel good to see, again, groups from various walks of life all find common ground and have a moment to share. Because then what happens after is there's like this epilogue with the voiceover reading the letter, which is a beautiful letter and send off to this movie. Mm-hmm. But you know, after this, their lives will never be the same again, but they're never going to interact. Like come Monday morning, they're
all back in their group.
Exactly. They're going to pass each other, and they're not going to have any, none of that's going to go on. But that moment will exist for all these people forever. And maybe later on in life, 5-10 years from now, some of these people will come back together. They bump into each other, and but it's one of those things that I didn't really fit into any of these groups as a high school kid. I wasn't a loner, I wasn't a nerd, I wasn't a jock, I wasn't a bully, I wasn't
not in the way that they were.
Right,
sure.
Yeah. And
I wasn't.
I definitely wasn't, the prettiest girl at school for sure. but I know people that fit all these categories when I was in high school.
We all know those
like
groups.
That. Yeah. So, and this movie was eye-opening to see because this is the only way I would ever see one representative from each group have a conversation.
Yeah.
It was just
Saturday school.
I'm listening to see it, man.
Nah, love it. That's good. Mike, have you ever had the desire? I don't know if you've ever lived in a small town, but have you ever had the desire to live in a small town?
I've lived in Thailand for a long time.
Yeah,
and it's a small town.
You consider this to? I don't know. It's more like a mid-level town to me.
Go to Dallas for a week. It'll change your mind.
I meant like a small, like. Oh,
you talking
like a couple hundred people, something small. Have you ever had the feel for that?
No, because I am black and those are sundown towns.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to take it there, but okay. No, there's some times where you just you get kind of tired with the hustle and bustle of life, even in a smaller town like this, or maybe in a bigger town where you live now, which is the traffic gets to you,
Hate it.
the smog, or the smells, the fact that everywhere you look around looks exactly the same stores everywhere. There's always a Walmart over here. Every time you turn, you can't turn down a street without seeing a McDonald's at the end of it, or it's all been corporatized. I guess that's a word. It's just all feels the same, looks the same. The shop, it's like one big giant shopping mall.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere you go, and there's no personality left. There's no, the architecture's. Nobody cares about that anymore. It's all box stores. And sometimes you just want to get out of the bigger cities and you want to go somewhere quiet. And usually you think, man, I'm just going on vacation or something like that. That might be a way to get away. But there's always been an allure of a small town to me, like the idea of maybe living in a smaller community where everybody knows everyone, but they also help each other. And there is a security in knowing your neighbors and the people that are around you, and knowing that if you need help, you got to rely on each other more than calling some nameless, faceless organization to come help you. You know what I mean? You actually know the people that are in your town through and through. So, one of the movies that gave me that feeling, and sometimes I rewatch it because I want to revisit that again, that small town feeling. It's a movie that's called Doc Holliday, which is from 1991. It stars Michael J. Fox, Julie Warner, Woody Harrelson again, and Bridget Fonda are in this movie. And it's about a doctor, a very young doctor who is traveling from New York, if I'm not mistaken, it's New York to Los Angeles to get a job with a family friend and to really just become like a rich doctor. He's finished his residency. He's now a doctor, and now he's going to go make money in the private sector. Mm-hmm. No more of this, general hospital work. And on his way, he decides to drive because he's got this very old Porsche that he's driving. And he decides to drive cross country to go to this job. Halfway through, so in the Midwest, his car breaks down. There was really an accident. And he has to get his car repaired. Because of the kind of car that it is, it's going to take time for them to fix it and get the part in. So he's stuck in this small town. And it's a small town that has a doctor, but the doctor's very old, and the doctor's like very ornery. And when the mayor of the small town finds out that there's a new young doctor that has to stay in town for a couple of days to get his car fixed, he tries to woo him in the ways of small town living. To see if he might be willing to stay and maybe make a practice there instead of going all the way to Los Angeles. So that's why they call him Doc Hollywood, because that's where he's headed. And so it's about,
Wait, did you say Doc Holliday at first? I think
maybe I said Doc Holliday. I meant Doc Hollywood.
That's what threw me off, because I was thinking, wait, this is not Tombstone. This is something
Lord,
different.
if I did, let me restart. I'm so sorry.
We're not restarting. We're going to continue.
All right.
The movie's Doc Hollywood, yes.
Doc Hollywood, all right. Let me just restart the beginning if you want to reinsert that in at the beginning, maybe.
We're not restarting. Come on, let's go. You just go from where you are.
Okay, so
we do it live.
Okay, we'll do it live. All right. So anyway, it's just the town starts to kind of reveal itself, or the charming aspects of it start revealing itself to him, and you can start to see that he's falling in love with small town life, because one of the twists in the movies you find out is that he isn't from New York. He's actually from a small town just like this one, but he moved to get out of that town. He moved to New York to become a doctor and to get out of that life. But in this kind of misadventure, he's discovering all the things that he missed from that time, that small town. So it's a great little small town movie that again speaks to me about community, and like when you want to get away from the hustle and bustle of the urban life, like maybe there is some peace and tranquility to be had in small town living. So Doc Hollywood. Doc Hollywood, not Doc Holliday. Way different.
As you were talking about this
mumbling
movie,
through that.
No. As you were talking about it, it was bringing back some of the realization that I had seen this movie once before.
Yeah.
And it was around the time when it came out.
91, so quite a long time ago.
So I didn't see it in theaters, but I mean, I caught it on TV when I was probably a little, right before high school.
Yeah.
And as I heard you talking about it, I was remembering those things you were talking about. The fact that he was from a small town originally and this and that. But you know, it's funny because whenever I think of Michael J. Fox, I can only think of him as a high schooler. And, you know, because his two biggest roles are Alex B. Keaton from Family Ties, which is, he's a high school kid. And he goes from that to Marty McFly, which is in Back to the Future. Again, he's a high school kid.
Yeah.
So
you mean Teen Wolf doesn't come right to your mind?
Not at all. Not at all. But because I think of him in high school only, you know, it goes right into my next movie, which is about a group of high school kids who decide to skip school for a day, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah, they do. Famously,
yeah.
What a day off, man!
Take over the town, basically.
Take over Chicago.
Yeah, it's Ferris Bueller Day.
It is. By the end of it, it is.
So I've only seen this movie once, and it was much, much later in life. I mean, we're talking mid-30s. So I'd always know what the movie was about. This high school kid who skipped school for a day, and the principal's trying to catch him in the act. But I didn't know all the little nuances and all the specifics of the other characters and this and that. But when I actually finally did see it, I instantly got it because it spoke to the inner child that's still in me. I think that's in a lot of us, which is why we enjoy some of these movies so much and why they're held in such high regard. But who didn't want to skip school in high school?
I know.
Like, we had so many different ways to try to get out of going to school. Oh, I'm sick, or you know, we put the towel over the lampshade, and we put it on our forehead. I got a fever. You know, we tried all those tricks. Depending on how much you wanted to get out of school, you would go the extra mile. But you know, moms and dads are smart, so they did the same things we did. They, you know, we're mirror images of them, so they have us all figured out. We can't get anything by them. But then, you know, high school for me was senior skip day. Now, my senior skip day was used to go look at the campus at TJC. That's what we did senior skip day for. But you had to have a parent's note to say my kid can leave campus.
Yeah, they when we did it, they outlawed it. They said if you took off senior skip day, that they would not let you graduate.
You couldn't graduate.
It's like, oh man, they just removed it as an option.
So if that's the case, then you have to create this elaborate scheme to get out of school, which is what happens in this movie. And it's a fun movie. Something about the way Chicago shot these three friends that you can tell have been together for a while, and they're just all over town. And they're not getting caught, and they're hanging out, having a blast. Like, it's just the perfect day out of school, knowing that your other peers are in class learning. They don't want to be there. You don't have to be there because you found a way out of it. Like, that's the perfect day for me. That's always going to... If a kid can finagle his way out of a day of school, I'm going to say props to that kid. It makes me happy. Don't learn for one day. It's okay. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's it.
Maybe he's having a Ferris Bueller. You don't want to interrupt that. He's having that day.
Let him have his moment, you know?
Yeah, but you want to be fair. I was saying, do you want to be Cameron? No, you want to be Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, because Cameron has a little...
Cameron has
some issues.
Yeah, by the end of it, he's like, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to take my beating like a man or whatever.
Yep.
It's like, oh, good Lord. Great, I love it. But, all right, Mike, me and you, we're both single men. Been single for a while.
Whoa, we're not telling everybody that, are we?
And, yeah, because our lucky Miss Rights might be out there somewhere. Let's go ahead and just announce that. You know, in our current red pill society, that's kind of permeated the culture a bit with men. You know, sometimes I just want to feel in love again. You know what I mean? I want to feel that feeling again, even if it's just for a couple of hours, just to feel that. And when I want to feel that, I watch Notting Hill from 1999.
Well, hold up. Half of your list is a rehash of other lists you've done.
I'm telling you.
This is the Avengers of lists for you. You're just taking other movies from other lists, but I'm going to let you rock with it.
Because they are my favorites kind of for a reason, or at least movies that I've mentioned to you before. Because I legit mean it when I say I watch this because I want to feel that feeling again.
Well, I'm gonna spoil this for you at the end, but I want
Yeah.
you to go first, and so I can spoil it after. Go ahead.
Good Lord. Okay, I know that the movie's not very realistic. It is a movie about just a single guy living his life, runs into an attractive female at his bookstore. They strike up a conversation. It's really nothing, just a quick little chemistry. There's a little chemistry between them, but it's nothing. And then they kind of, and I forget exactly how it lines out, but they reconnect, and they have this connection, and he finds out that she's famous. She's a famous actress.
So Notting Hill, is this a place?
It is.
Okay.
It's a city in England.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly.
Gotcha.
Where, but,
Okay.
and he owns a bookstore, and he sees a lot of different people. Nobody like this woman, but she does it. She connects with him in a way, not because she's this beautiful actress necessarily, but because I think they're genuinely there's a spark
Right.
between them. And there's really you have the feeling that while this is very unbelievable in a sense, because this is a major Hollywood actress, why would she fall in love with this random bookstore owner? So there's a lot of fantasy in that, but there's also a sense of like she wouldn't be attracted to this dude, although he's Hugh Grant. You know what I mean? Like he is an actor himself. That's a very good looking actor, but you just suspend that part of it, and just think, what if it's just a regular guy, and would that look? It was no way. And even the people in the movie acknowledge, the actors in the movie, as they're acting, they acknowledge, oh, this is not possible. This is crazy, but it kind of lends itself to the idea of like loving someone despite the situation that they're in, even if it's a great situation like she's in. It has its downfalls, and she has her bouts with the press, her image, how protective of it she is. She can't be seen with this guy, that kind of a thing. They're dragging him in the press because he's just some common lad, although he's not a common lad.
Right. Yeah.
They're dragging him. He didn't sign up for all this paparazzi and these questions and stuff. He's just a normal dude. But because he's associated with her and all the connections. But at the end of all that crap, and there's a lot of crap, there's still something between them. You know what I mean? To the point where they decide to continue it. But yeah, this is one of the films that, and we're getting into this more territory for me. It's a feeling thing more than necessarily, oh wow, this is the greatest love story ever. It's not. It's just how the movie makes me feel. When I saw the movie back in '99, at that time I was probably more in love than I'd ever been before in my life. So it's a reconnection to a bit of nostalgia for me too. And I'm sure everybody has like films or things like that. Oftentimes they say that smells will bring that back. So if you smelled your old girlfriend's perfume, what kind of memories does that bring back to you?
Oddly enough, this morning I was just thinking about how certain smells can take you back and transport you into a moment in time.
Right.
And because recently I was out somewhere and I caught a whiff of like a floral scent. It was something that somebody had on. I guess we had walked past each other, and instantly it took me back to like a blink of an eye moment. This girl I was interested in or dating at the time, and she wore
I
something
hadn't thought about her since, probably.
hadn't at all.
And
But
all of a
that
sudden,
one
after
smell,
20 years, it's like, bam.
exactly. So I know exactly what you mean.
That's what I mean. And that's what that film does for me. So it just brings me back to that feeling again. And it's not necessarily the movie that does it, because the movie is based in England, has kind of an England sensibility about it, an English comedy sensibility about it, the funny part of it. But then the American part of it obviously comes with Julia Roberts. But it's very much an English feeling film, and that's not particularly my favorite.
Same.
But it all connects with. So I'm not necessarily recommending this one if you want to quote unquote try to have that love feeling for yourself in that movie. But I will say that this is the movie that connects that feeling for me, and I would probably guess that there's a movie out there that connects certain of those feelings for you. So maybe it's just re-sparking maybe in your mind right now what romantic film do I like to go to when I want to feel that nostalgia of love? If you haven't felt it in a while, and you might be feeling it right now, and you don't need the reminder, but maybe one day you will. So, for me, it is Notting Hill from 1999.
All right, that's a great choice. Even though you've mentioned it at least 3 times on the podcast, I'll allow it. The trifecta.
It's when my life gets me down.
So me, I'm gonna go into animated film. I know you're thinking, "Oh, I'm so glad you added the animated film because how much you love animated films. I did this just for you."
I mean, all the rest of mine are animated films, so
Yeah, I'm sure
no, I have a dislike of animated films. But,
Which is exactly why I added it because I know this is a movie you're not a fan of. Because
no, hey, but you're my opposite, right? You're my yin to my yang, right? Like it's good. You like the horror films. I don't do that, you know. I like the superhero films. You're okay with them. It's all right. So it works out. It equals out. So yes, the animated films. You are our sponsor in that area.
Okay.
So you guys.
Right. Well, for this, this is 2018, I believe. Like this movie, like shook the world in terms of animation.
Shook it
because of how visually groundbreaking it looked.
Yes.
The story was there. It was a character we hadn't seen yet in the whole Marvel zeitgeist. So it was cool to see the version of this character come on the screen in the way that it looked. And then also the story was telling, which introduced a bunch of other similar characters. And this is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is Mulley's favorite movie of all time. We've discussed it, I think, on and off the podcast.
No, you know what? I'm starting to warm up to it a bit. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't exactly what I want. I know, and I discovered through that movie that it's really animated films that I'm stepping out on, not so much just that particular movie, but I can still appreciate how visually, although a bit abrasive in its animation, like it's really in your face. That I can appreciate the uniqueness and now seeing other people copy it, you know, because it set a style.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mean, to me this is a 10 out of 10, which I don't really give 10 out of 10s to
You
movies.
don't, no.
But I mean the style, the pacing, the story, like it runs the gamut of like multi-genres almost. You have comedy, you have action, you know, you have suspense, you have love. It's all in this one melting pot of a movie.
I heard people say it's the greatest superhero movie ever made.
I wouldn't give it that only because I know we have part 3 on the way. So I'm going to refrain from saying anything first.
Okay. You see it as a trilogy as a whole.
Yeah, I do. So I can't just say it's the best.
The third is bad. It diminishes the other two.
Yeah, but they have to stick the landing at this point with how high they set the bar with the sequel, Beyond the Spider-Verse, Across. If they stick the landing with Beyond the Spider-Verse, then I think that's definitely a consideration, and it's worthy of a conversation at that point. But we also have Dune Messiah. This is Dune Part 3. I just saw that's going to be announced. The director, Denis Villeneuve, he wants to get this out December 2026. He also wants to get out his own Star Wars film the same day. He wants to direct both and put them out the same day. So if they stick the landing on Dune Messiah, and then that trilogy may be the best trilogy.
There's no way they're releasing Dune and Star Wars side by side.
This is what he wants to do. I don't know.
There's no way.
I just saw the headline this morning. I don't know.
There's only so much box office to spread around.
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to change. It's just, I'm sure
squeeze each other
out. To do.
Dude.
They would.
There's no way.
But I mean, people are so sour.
We'll do a double feature for sure. I mean, we're going both. But
yeah, I probably would.
You'd go to Dune first. Let's be honest. But
no, I'd probably go Star Wars first because if it's disappointing, I know Dune won't be. So yeah, let's get Star Wars out the way, and I know Dune's going to be amazing.
I got you.
But so yeah, Across the Spider-Verse, that's part 2. Into the Spider-Verse.
They got to really work on those names.
It was just,
Jeez.
I didn't really know what to expect. I just thought, for me, it was cool to see a comic book character from the comics in an animated film that was of color. You know, we've seen Spider-Man, we've seen Andrew Garfield, we've seen Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland. Those are all white guys, and I love all those movies.
Yeah.
You know, they all have their own place in cinematic history as far as comic book movies go. But this one was just different. It had a whole different aesthetic and a vibe. It was more hip hop. You know, Miles Morales is from Brooklyn, and so there's just a whole thing with hip hop history that's embedded with Brooklyn.
Not so much Queens. So.
Was it Queens?
Queens is Queens is Peter Parker.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
So they're like across the tracks. Yeah. I mean, no, there's hip hop greats from all the five boroughs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, because this is the
But
first.
Brooklyn, Brooklyn does.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest of all time, Biggie Smalls, is from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
You know, so it just kind of makes sense.
Gives it its own vibe.
It does,
Yeah.
for sure. It definitely has its own feel to it, has an edge to it. It just feels more hip. And it's still cool. Like, kids from all ages, from 5 to 45, can go and watch this movie and get something from it.
Steve Rogers from Brooklyn, too?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's that whole Queens-Brooklyn interaction in Civil
War.
Right.
He's like, "Where you from, kid?" He said, "From Queens." He's like, "I'm Brooklyn," and then he runs off. So yeah. But no, this movie again. Anytime it's on, anytime I watch it, it's just I'm smiling because what I'm watching. I feel like a 5-year-old watching it every time I watch it.
Well, every frame could, it's one of those things, like one of those movies where every frame could be a work of art, and you could have it hanging as a poster.
Agreed.
Or some kind of a portrait on your wall. So it's a beautiful movie. Yeah.
I'm glad you've kind of come around and warmed up to this a little bit.
No, I'm still getting. Let's not go all in here.
No, but your hatred and vitriol for this movie when we first discussed it, it was there.
That was more like just wasted opportunity. I didn't want to see the first Miles Morales introduction in a cartoon.
You want to see live action?
I still do.
It's gonna happen.
I wanted it to be Donald
They're working
Glover,
on it.
like everybody else wanted till they aged out because they waited too long.
And also here's the thing too. People have to remember Miles Morales is half black, half Puerto Rican. So to just simply cast a black actor because he is black, I get that, but let's also try to get somebody that's more representative of the actual character.
I want the best person for it. And a lot of people thought he was the best person.
Yeah.
Including myself. I thought, this guy's Miles Morales. It's him. Oh well. That they missed that train already. Unless they do some kind of CGI. The problem is it's just like Tom Holland. It's like you have to get a child actor that's like unproven and stuff. I mean, he had been in some things. Famously, Tom Holland was in that Tsunami movie with
Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
It's a very short title. I can't think of it.
Yeah, me neither. It's not Tsunami.
It's the something. The something.
Scream it at home. Maybe we'll hear you.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, good pick. All right, so my last 4, because we've got 4 left on my list, but I have them in groupings of 2. So the first grouping for me is when I need some inspiration to chase my dreams, what movies do I watch? And I particularly go to these 2. And the first one might surprise a lot of people because I don't think a lot of people watch this movie.
It's like a recurring thing with a lot of movies you talk about on this podcast is it's followed up by I don't think a lot of people saw this movie, but ...
Because something attracts me to this movie, like in the trailer, but I know that it's not a mainstream movie that a lot of people are going to watch or even like maybe, but there's something that I see in it that I want to watch, like desperately want to watch. This is a remake. Actually, this is a short story in at first back in the 30s, I believe. It's a short story in the New Yorker, and then that became a movie, and then it became a remake in 2013, and that's what I am referring to in this particular list, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty in 2013, starring Ben Stiller, Kristen Wiig, and Sean Penn.
I've actually heard people rave about how amazing this movie is. It's actually on my list of movies I want to check out because the people talk about it so much.
Yeah. It is, and it's hard. The way that the movie was sold initially was about and really what it really ultimately is about a meek man who has a massive imagination, and what he does in storytelling as a component of the storytelling is he brings you into his imagination, so you see what he's seeing in his imagination,
right?
And in his mind, he's this great human being, a great man, everything he wants to be. But in real life, he's meek and not one to take chances. But what this movie is really about is the person that he wants to be, imagines to be, and the person that he is, he starts to bring them together. And by the end of the movie, he's no longer that guy who imagines doing awesome things. He's a guy who does awesome things. So that's the transition of this movie. That's the character arc. So you take a look and see what Ben Stiller looks like at the beginning of this movie, and he's like clean cut, button all the way up to the top. hair kind of slicked in kind of a nerdy way is the best way to put it. But just more, just more of like he is like a person that you would assume is kind of a meek personality. Gets his always on time, does his job, does it really well actually, but never pushes for promotion, never pushes anything. Doesn't put lets people push him around a bit, boss him around, and lets other people take credit for his work, that kind of a thing. And by the end of it, it's an entirely different dude. Like he looks totally different. He looks weather worn. He looks like he's dressed more like an adventurer. It's like a whole other thing. And this is all about how he gets from A to B in that character arc of a journey. So yes, and he doesn't. By the end of it, he doesn't have to imagine awesome things anymore because he's doing awesome things. He is that awesome person now. So. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I love the inspiration. One of the biggest things that I want to do from this movie is I want to longboard in Iceland. That's what I would love to do. That I would love to go to Iceland where there's nobody around, but there's these long winding roads. And even though I don't skateboard much anymore, the idea of just longboarding on it made it iconic in this movie.
It's one of the clips I see on YouTube a lot. Is that
so
clip.
freeing. It feels so free. So yeah, I want to go to Iceland just because of this movie. I don't think I'm going to like the food. I'm not going to be able to speak the language, and it's going to be really cold. And it's cold and wet, and there's not a lot of cities. There's not a lot of. It's mainly just rural country.
That might be just the place you want to go to. You talked about Dog Hollywood, going to a small town.
This is like hard to get to, hard to get stuff to kind of small town.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not that kind of small town.
And you know what? You might actually go over there, and then you might meet the girl of your dreams over there. You never know.
I mean, even though we can't talk to each other, maybe, yeah.
Oh, they speak English over there.
No? Some, but I don't think it's
like what's their native language?
I don't know.
Is it Polish?
Called. I don't know what it's called. It's. I know that they're like their cities and stuff. They have huge, long names that are just hard to even pronounce.
You're right.
And their food is very different than ours. And there's a lot of differences because I've watched a lot of like travel stuff, but I don't know what their native languages are. Okay. It's a Google search away, but I don't know nothing. But that's my first of two. When I need inspiration to chase my dreams, and I'll do the next one after. Mike's.
Oh, I see what you did. You teased me because I was ready to go, man. I was ready to listen to the next one. All right.
Next, I'll preface it again, but yeah, we got another one to go.
All right. Well, speaking of Go,
the movie Go.
It's the movie Go. It is.
No,
for real.
Oh,
real talk. It's right here, number 8 on my list. Go.
I just throw it. I had no idea that would.
That was great. That was a great moment.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it, but
really?
But I used to work at a video store, and I would see that cover, and I can still see the cover today. It was red. Go was in yellow lettering, and it had a picture of a woman that was on the front.
That's Katie Holmes.
Action things happening in the background.
I have that DVD, so I know exactly the cover you're talking about.
I see it all the time. And nobody would rent it. No, I don't.
So this is one of those movies where I'm going to actually steal your line. Where you said this is a movie that probably not a lot of people have seen.
Copyright.
But it's a very quirky movie, and it's 3 vignettes all kind of mashed together. It tells a full story at the end, and it all kind of starts to tie together. Some of the characters and some of the things they encounter, some of the experiences that take place in the film, they all start to kind of weave together. So they start off as just 3 separate little mini short stories, and then they start to kind of weave things together in the end to tell a full out, fleshed out story. But this movie stars Katie Holmes, so that kind of tells you a lot about what kind of movie this is and maybe why it wasn't broadly marketed and well received. Because I mean, she came from Dawson's Creek to do this movie, basically. So we're talking like our era, basically.
Hey! What are you talking about our era?
Hey, you already talked about how lonely I am and how I need to be in love, so I'm going to talk about how this is our era.
All right, go ahead.
But this also has a very young Taye Diggs, really before Taye Diggs became Taye Diggs, and also a Breckenmeyer.
Breckenmeyer is a big name back there. Yeah.
There's a couple of other faces in it that people will probably recognize if you're really familiar with just film in general. If you've seen a bunch of movies, you've seen one or two of these other actors in other movies. Actually, one of the actors in this movie, in the Taye Diggs and Breckenmeyer section, It's from Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah, he's one of those actors.
Okay.
Sarah Polly's in this. She's Katie Holmes' sidekick friend. I work at the grocery store. She's gone on to become a director now. This movie was introduced to me basically like one of my friends who used to watch some of the most obscure movies. You and him will probably have great conversations because you probably have seen a lot of the same films. And he introduced me to this movie. I wasn't really trying to see this movie because I never heard of it. I know Katie Holmes. I don't really know anybody else. Why would I want to, sit here and take 2 hours out of my day, my valuable time, to watch this movie? And then I ended up watching it, really enjoyed it. There's a young Timothy Olyphant in this. Who's he's
really
an ecstasy dealer.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, the real X, because there's like ecstasy, and then it's like it's been remixed, and now it's something else. But this is like the real X. This is none of that crunchy herbal rave stuff. Country.
None of that country crack.
Yeah,
This is the real good stuff. Yeah.
There's some really good moments with one of the characters that actually ends up taking the X, and this cat's talking to him in his head. He can hear the
Yeah, it
cat's
seems
voice.
drug induced.
It is
kind of a movie.
and
right?
it revolves around. You could make a case that this is actually a Christmas movie.
Oh my God.
You can.
Christmas crack movie. Huh?
Christmas crack. But yeah, it's Scott Wolf is in this also.
You're bringing back all the.
So this is
You're bringing
a very
back-
again
Yeah.
a lot
Very
of
much
movies on
of the
this list.
time.
Very much of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a feel good movie. It's crazy. It's off the wall. There's like hints of other movies that this kind of was birthed from.
Okay.
But I think if you're just into quirky dark humor, like I am, you'll enjoy the dark humor in this.
Okay. Go from the word go.
From the word go.
All right. The second half of my movies when I need inspiration to chase my dreams. I know this is a movie that a lot of people wrote off because I kind of wrote it off too. I didn't think this was going to be very good. And the latter end of Jim Carrey's career has been a little bit more wacky like it was when it started. With all the Sonic stuff that he does now. It's just kind of it's just kind of over the top. That's how he started with Ace Ventura. It was like super over the top. He got then super serious. And then, then now it's kind of come back to the funny part. So I know now this movie this was done back in 2008. So it's not like it's recent like its wackiness, but the name of the movie is Yes Man, and I just didn't think it was going to be like I thought this was going to be kind of what Adam Sandler's movies are now. Kind of, it's just kind of a one-trick pony type thing. But I honestly thought there was a really good message in this movie. And basically what the idea of it is this is a guy who says pretty much no to everything. And, he comes to a bit of a crossroads in his life. And he falls into this kind of, not even a kind of, it's a conference by this guru. Mm-hmm. And the guru has this one trick to try to get everybody like on a higher plane. And it is just to say yes. And just say yes to everything.
Such a small pivotal role, but it's played perfectly by Terrence Stamp. He's a legend.
He is, and his response to everything that's happening at the end is also legendary too. So it's not a huge role, right? But it's a pivotal role, right? And it comes back to the end.
Yep.
So, so Yes Man stars Jim Carrey, Zoe Deschanel, Bradley Cooper is in this film, and Rains Darby is really funny in this part as well
as coworker, right?
Coworker,
yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So you'll see some recognizable faces in it.
Mm-hmm.
It has a great message to it. It is wacky. It does have some of the Jim Carrey comedy in it that you come to expect from him, which is physical and over the top. And there's a bit of that, just a bit of it. But he does carry his acting chops do come to the surface a bit in this as well, and there's a great message. So if you ever thought about maybe you say no to stuff a bit too much in your life, this will show you what happens when you just say yes to everything, no matter what. Mm-hmm. And it gets him into trouble, but it also opens up him to things that he never would have been exposed to before. He learns new things, tries new things, meets new people, meets potentially the love of his life because he's willing to say yes to everything. But people take advantage of that. He takes advantage of it at the end too of a bunch of people because it's saying yes. The really the takeaway for me is like you should say yes more, not yes to everything, but say yes more to things that are sensible and the things that you're afraid of that you would typically say maybe no to. Maybe just consider saying yes and seeing what happens. Mm-hmm. So, good lesson to be had in that movie that I didn't think that I thought was going to be like a, and I actually like Happy Gilmore, but I thought it was going to be kind of a, just kind of a throwaway comedy, and it was not. It was a life lesson movie.
Yeah, see, this is surprising because I don't have a hatred for Jim Carrey. I have a distaste for a lot of his movies because of his style of comedy, his antics.
Yeah.
And to me, I didn't think this was really that Ace Ventura-esque comedy. To me, it wasn't so over the top that I couldn't stand it. I actually really enjoyed this film as well. Again, when this is ever on, I watch it because it's funny. It reminds me a little bit of Liar Liar a little bit, but I hated Liar Liar, but I enjoyed this. And I almost didn't see this because how I feel about Jim Carrey and how Liar Liar had a bad taste in my mouth.
I think it's water, yes.
You need more.
I'm good for now, thank you. But I was glad I went and saw it because it was a pleasant surprise, and I actually had a great time in the theater watching it. It's one of the few comedies that he's done that I liked. Because, I'm a serious person when it comes to Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
So I like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I like The Number 23.
Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
More serious.
So this was a good change of pace for me in terms of Jim Carrey. So
Okay, good. Well, that was mine. So now it's on to yours.
yeah, I'm gonna double back to Breckenmeyer.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That's something we'll never say. We've never said, and we'll never say again.
This is what we do in the podcast: is we make history, we break history.
We've been making history tonight. Today.
So yeah, I'm doubling back to him, give him some more shine, because I think this movie is worth noting. This is much more of a Breckenmeyer vehicle, whereas in Go, he was a side character in a small portion of the film. I love road trips, and in this movie, him and some friends go on a road trip to try to track down this supposed sex tape that's been sent off to his girlfriend in Austin, Texas. And this movie's called Road Trip. I mean, that's what it is. Sure. I'm a fan of road trips. I love them. I haven't done near enough of them in my life, so I hope to do more and going into the second half of my life. But he's the straight character in the film. We talked about straight not meaning straight as in sexual orientation, but he's the character that everything happens to, but the comedic relief.
He's a straight man.
A straight man. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've got Sean William Scott in this movie. That's where the majority of the comedy comes from. You have a DJ Qualls, a young DJ Qualls in this movie. A lot of comedy comes from him, especially when they get to the black fraternity house. That's what a lot of the comedy with him comes in.
Is this Tom Green?
Tom Green, yeah.
Christian Kirk, I believe.
No, not Christian Kirk.
That's Euro Trip. Am I thinking?
That's Euro Trip.
I'm thinking of Matt Damon. That's right.
This is Amy Smart.
Okay, this is Amy Smart.
Yeah.
Got you.
So this is like speaking of Tom Green, this is a very MTV movie.
Okay.
Like when you think about this is the perfect era, right before MTV shifted from music videos and pop stars, boy bands into reality TV.
Wait, music videos used to be on MTV.
Come on,
what?
Man. Come on, let's stop, man.
What?
All of our listeners are of our age. They all know.
No. There's some young guys in here. There's some young men and women in here.
But this is a very MTV movie. It had all like the top boy band and pop songs as part of the soundtrack.
Oh,
it just felt again of its time. All these movies are of its time.
And our time is, I guess, the 90s.
It's over, man. Our time's been over.
Our times is the 90s and the early 2000s. If you wanted movies like before that or after that, good luck, because yeah.
No, but road trips are always going to put a smile on my face because you never know what you're going to encounter on the way. Because as we said before, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And in this movie, it's very much that. It's the journey, not the destination. Because once you get to the end of this movie, it kind of falls flat because you're not looking for. You don't go into this movie for the romantical elements of it. You go into it for the shenanigans, and you get a bunch of that really for the first 2/3 of this movie. And then, of course, you have to wrap it up with a nice little bow at the end, and all is well at the end. But this movie's never not going to make me laugh, never not going to put a smile on my face, never not going to put me in a good mood.
Awesome, dude. I like it. All right. Mike, I'm hijacking this list from you right now. All right.
It's an airplane movie.
The last two.
Snakes on the plane.
I'm doing the last two on my list together.
Hey, that's what I want to see.
Hijacking it.
About. Let's go.
All right. Because you know what? These are movies I've talked about before, so we're not talking about them very much.
You cheated.
No.
This was Mulley's list. So, okay.
We've talked about this already. We talked about this. When I want to retreat back into my childhood, what movies do I watch?
Back to the Future.
And all right, you got one.
Groundhog Day.
Oh, dude, Batman, 1989.
Oh, okay.
So Back to the Future from 85, another Michael J. Fox movie, and then Batman 89 from Keaton. Not because necessarily they speak to me in any other way than nostalgic. I'm sure that everybody at home listening or on your car or wherever you are, that you have movies that you instantly watch, you start watching, and you just remember, your childhood. You remember being young, and that's more of when I grew up. Those are the movies that most connect. Like I have a special feeling. Back to the Future, it literally, I think it really changed my life in a way that it opened up movies to me that I never knew before. Eventually got me into wanting to maybe make movies, to this podcast even. We've been talking about this because of an initial love that was sparked by Back to the Future. As far as Batman, that came out 4 years later, 1989. It was the summer of Batman. Everything was Batman. There was nothing as merchandised as big as that to me at the time. It was just everywhere. The bat symbol was on everybody's shirts, on every product placement, on big billboards. It was just iconic.
I think even to this day, that specific Tim Burton logo of the Batman is still one of the most iconic images you'll ever see.
Just everywhere.
Yeah.
And then people were just consuming, wanted everything that they could get about Batman. They were watching the old 60s one. Those guys became popular again because of the movie. The cartoons, the animated series came out of that because of the popularity of that. And it was a turbulent ride for Batman after that. But '89 really started it all, and that was right in the heat of my teenage, right becoming a teenager type childhood right there. It was just boom, exploded, and it was just all in front of me, and I was just young and impressionable, and it just put a big old bat symbol on me. But I'm not really speaking about those movies to our listeners because I want you to go watch those movies. I just want you to kind of reckon back. Think about what are the handful of movies that you watch and it just brings you right back to when you were a kid. Do you have any that are like that just bring you right back other than Friday, I guess?
Well, yeah, there's we released that episode already.
Give it to us
Top
again.
10 movies that make me think of my childhood.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't remember them, but they're already out. It's already released.
Oh, we haven't released that, have we?
Yeah, it's Apple. It's on Spotify.
Oh, is it the last one?
It's on Michael the Mike 80s YouTube channel. So yes.
Oh, okay.
That episode's out.
The title is just, okay.
So yeah, they will have already consumed that episode, so they're familiar with.
But those are the ones. Those are some of those. Huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because you said that you wanted to go double back to some movies that you discussed on an older episode.
Yeah.
And I was judging you for it, and I want to apologize because
Why?
I'm going to end with one from a previous episode as well.
You are hypocritical. All right, okay.
Take accountability.
He took a step back,
Yeah,
but y'all got heard him back up when he realized that he was on his list.
So to wrap up this episode, the top 10 movies.
That's it. We're wrapping it. Yes.
That I watch for pick me ups
Yeah.
is Ghostbusters, the first one.
Ooh.
Yeah, like I said, this
Super
was
scary, dude.
previously discussed on top 10 movies that made me think of my childhood or miss my childhood was the title. I had to throw in a little horror element just for you.
Dude, yeah, and that was little horror elements that were wrapped into what basically wasn't a kids movie, but it was marketed as a kids.
Yeah, well, it's the 80s. It was very different back then.
It was. They loved to scare children.
Yeah.
They loved to scare children.
But I guess I love the dynamic between all the characters, Harold Ramis. And,
But you liked being scared back then, didn't you?
I'm not gonna say I liked it, but I also didn't. I wasn't really afraid of this movie like you were when I saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. This came out in '84. I was only 4 years old. I didn't see it when it came out. I probably saw it maybe 6 to 7 years after. So I was 10, 11, 12. So the movie didn't scare me.
That library ghost, dude. You don't think I'd be walking in an empty library and be thinking, oh,
Okay, you know what?
You know what? That
was
around
the
corner
one
there.
thing from the movie that probably stuck with me the longest was the library. First of all, libraries are scary anyway. Who wants
They
to go
are.
there? Those
They
books,
are,
old
dude.
books, it's weird.
It has a smell and
Yeah.
it's musty.
That's the movie that made me think all libraries probably are haunted for real. That for me, that's real talk. And maybe that's why I have a thing about libraries. I don't know, but no, that opening
I will not
scene,
go into a library without a proton pack. That's it. I gotta have some kind
You're
of.
gonna get arrested real quick doing that. I would not recommend that. But yeah, no, I'm not trying
Just
to go over there and see
I can't
a
go in the
ghost.
library just as a Ghostbuster. What's wrong?
Not with a live weapon on your back. I don't think that's how it works, bro.
It's nuclear powered, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think you can walk anywhere with something nuclear
It's a
powered on
weapon
your
of mass
back.
destruction on your back.
On your back.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
ridiculous.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
But yeah,
Homeland
no,
security, maybe.
if I was to see something like that, for sure, like I'm out.
Yeah.
Never going back. I'm not dealing with it. No, but this movie's just fun. Like
It is fun. That's the problem. It's Bill Murray is so good.
that's what I'm saying. So they made horror fun. This movie was made for people like you, really. People who don't love horror, we're gonna make you
Right.
laugh and it's gonna make fun. This is for you.
It's like giving a dog its medicine, except the medicine is horror, and the food around it is Bill Murray.
That's pretty good. If you can make some Pedialyte and some Kibbles and Bits,
Yeah, oh,
I'm
yeah.
down. That may be a get rich
Kibbles
quick
and light.
scheme.
Yeah.
Kibbles and Light. Okay, I'm broken. We can end this episode. I'm broken.
Hey, you know the Ghostbusters, man. Yeah, I mean that. Look, even today, if you see somebody walking down the street in Halloween, you know instantly by looking at them what they are. That is a Ghostbuster. That was what 85,
8045.
84, 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still iconic enough to recognize it when you see it walking down the street. You know what I mean?
Facts.
That's how much of an impact that it had. And there's only been 2 of those legit movies. The others, they're legit as far as like
Take it for what they are. I mean,
cast, but also like full cast, I guess would be the best way to put it. Because even the last 2 didn't have the full quote unquote cast. Although it special effects wise did.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, the core of who those guys were and the phenomenon that it was all in the 80s. And iconic. So yeah, that's it. You need to pick me up, you watch Ghostbusters, right?
Any of these movies that we
Any of
covered,
these movies that we talked about. So that's it for our list of 10 movies we watch when life gets us down. Or as Mike says, you need a little bit of a pick-me-up. As always, we always tell you guys this. We want to hear what your list is. What's a handful of movies that are nostalgic for you, or that when you need a little bit of a pick me up, or maybe you need to be reminded about love or goodness in the world, or spirituality or humanity? We want to hear your list too. So please, we are on a lot of different social media outlets now. There are all different kind of ways to get in contact with us, even through email. So please reach out. Let us know, 1, that you're listening, and 2, what your lists are, what your choices are. We are interested in hearing what you guys have to say and respond to these lists. And 3, please share this podcast if you have a friend or a family member who loves movies the way that me and you do, and the way me and Mike do as well. So that's another one in the can. Mike, give him an outro.
I don't have any inspiration today, man. Just like I usually say, pay your bills on time or don't pay them on time. Actually, it's better to let your loans default, because what happens is eventually they'll call you and want to settle for 50%.
Oh gosh.
And then you get on a payment plan for 50%, and eventually you'll get your credit back up to where it needs to be. It worked for me multiple times.
All right, let me put a disclaimer. This, me and Mike are not giving you financial advice in any way. We are not financial professionals in any way. This is not money advice in any way. And we're going to end the podcast now before we get sued. Hey guys, have a great day, and we'll see you next time here on the Top 10 Movie Podcast. Don't say anything, Mike. You're going to get us in trouble.